One of the biggest distractions of anything you contribute, your belt, a song, is the narratives. You have an applause, which is what we actually want from the audience. We have the person sitting in the chair who's actually the actual guitar strap, so to speak, in your case. And it's the narratives. So you have all these influences. Another example would be like if we were fighting in the cage. You have your coach screaming and you have the audience yelling. Some people cheering for you, some people cheering against you. But the coach yelling, you have to distinguish what voice is screaming you up opposed to screaming at you or for you.
Hey there, this is the Red Monkey Podcast. My name is Tori and I will be your host. This is a podcast about embodying the spirit of rock and roll, creativity, and combining the two to create just absolute cool, badass rock and roll stuff. Keep listening and we'll get a lot of stories from a lot of really cool people. Thanks for tuning in. Neeko, thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Wow. So I've got so many questions, but we were just talking about the creative process and you tapped into something that I guess I've not really thought about. As we lose our elders, the elders are, as they pass on, whether it's musicians or artists or just, we all have our time, right?
Yeah.
But you tapped into something and you said something that was really kind of key. And I'm like, how do we get people to want to be great and not just TikTok or Instagram famous? And you said,
it's basically none of the greats tried to be great.
They didn't try to be great.
They didn't try to be great.
That's the trick.
That's what we called them. We called them the greatest. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I was thinking about that this morning. Went surfing and sitting in the water. And it's funny because I was thinking to myself, well, why do people want me on their podcasts? Why do people want to hear what I have to say? And it's not that I'm the expert, which is what people call me. I call myself the experienced. You know what I mean?
I like that.
And I've experienced so much over and over and over again that it's like, maybe that's why they call me the expert. But, am I the greatest? I don't consider it. And I don't think any of the greatest that we consider the greats considered it either. They were always trying, always starving, always trying to do better. And, because of that drive, that's why they're the greatest.
But what inspires that drive? Where does that come from? To want to get to the next level, to want to be more creative or do better.
Yeah. Well, look around you. This is where we're sitting in your workshop. I look at the threads, the leather, the belts, what's already done, and it's never enough. I was like, how many belts do you need? I thought I had a lot of belts in my closet. And I'm a consumer. Get that, right? This is just an outfit. But coming in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, it's like, how much chocolate do you need to produce?
Fair enough. And funny enough, I remember back in the day thinking like I came up with a new collection and I was like, oh, this is fucking the best thing ever.
Right.
Like I'm never going to be able to do better.
Right.
This is it. Like this is my fucking magnum opus piece, and then I look at it now and I'm like, that shit was shitty.
But that's what makes you the greatest.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Well,
but
you got to remember, I walked in, and I love belts. I love wallets. I love, that whole accessory thing about it. But it's Superman had a cape. All the superheroes had something, you know what I mean? And us creatives, this is the shit that like turns us on. Turns that creative on. It inspires it to come out. You know what I mean? It actually says, look at me, like people see it. You know what I mean?
I think it just happens. I mean, it's just one of those things. So you do hair, but you don't just do hair. Well, first off, I want to start like, how did you even get into hair? Like where did that come from? Because you don't just, in school, it's like, well, kids want to be a veterinarian or a fireman or, whatever, all that stuff. Now they want to be influencers, but, you were like, no, I want to cut hair.
Well, like people have asked me in the past, why was hair the deciding factor? Why I wanted to express myself or become that? And, it it was definitely a choice, but I think it started with a circumstance. Like my life has always been creative. I took apart TVs and shit. Like built bikes and like. Is it okay if we cuss?
Of course.
Yeah. So yeah, he said, of course. I was like, yeah, I'm home. This is church. No, I was kidding. So yeah, I've always tried to aesthetically make something fit what I wanted to feel like. And it's funny because like working with my hands was always the thing. So as I was growing older, getting, in my years of what can I do with my life? Well, I came up in gangs. And gangs was an expression, but it was something about the superhero thing. All like little kids come out with their capes and they're dressed up for Halloween. Like I was that kid, but then coming into my like teenage years, I was like, I want to stand for something. And at the time I didn't really have like close family because we moved around when we were younger. I was like, I gravitated towards a bunch of rebel kids in school, and it turned into a gang thing. There was a cape, which is the blue rag, you know what I mean? And then it ended up fighting for something. There's the Justice League, you know what I mean? So all that to say, got me into some trouble. Well, a lot of trouble. I caught a case when I was younger. I had a half a kilo of cocaine flying to Louisiana, and
really,
yeah, I caught a case. Watch this. I was looking at 5 to 7 years, and I came to a point in my life where I had to make a decision. Do you want to continue on this pathway in superhero there? Or do you want to actually shift and actually participate in the real world?
How old were you then?
I was 18, just turned 18.
And was all this in LA?
Yeah, we lived inland. So, a lot of the people I associated with weren't in LA.
Okay.
So, again,
so you caught a case. And that saved you essentially?
No, it didn't save me. It actually stopped me before I made real decisions. And when it stopped me, it basically asked me, do you want to continue down this path, or is there another option? So at the time, us earlier talking about church, this is your church. I went to a gang rehab center, which was a church.
Was that part of the deal? Like, did you?
Yeah, part of the court.
So you didn't have to do 5 to 7.
Well, no, I'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
The court told me I had to participate in some kind of nonprofit or, rehab. So I went to a church that was gang rehab. And it's funny because it was all gangsters in there and we were just still beefing like we were on the street. So it's fun. It was actually fun, like you're sitting in the main room and everybody's all, don't move, it's squeaking. You know what I mean? And then you get into the hallway and you're like, West Side, boo, you know what I mean? And it was actually, you still were trying to sneak it in. But anyways, my youth counselor was a barber. And he invited, he used to do all his Bible studies, sermons at the salon. So I'd go to the salon and, he's just preaching. He had like 15, 16 guys just sitting around, and I'd be sweeping, just listening, not really into church or anything, grew up Catholic, not really. My parents did, they were Catholic, and that stand up, sit down, like it was all bullshit to me. So, I was not really into it. Mm-hmm. Always said a prayer, always like, God, keep me safe when I'm on the street, whatever, and had some form of it. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But when I went to this church, it's funny, I was sitting in a sermon one time, and I used to sit right in front, I used to run to the front, try to beat the old ladies out, because all old people try to roll up. And I'd be like, it's my turn, bitch, get out the way. You get out the way, So I sit in front, and I was like, God, what do you have to say to me today? And it was just insane intimacy of, you're valued, you have something to say, I have a purpose for you. And at that moment, you know, going back into the salon sweeping, everybody loved me in there. So the barber actually came to me and he said, hey man, you know, we love your vibe. I talked to all the hairdressers in here. We want to sponsor you. We came up with a bunch of money. We want to pay for a beauty school if you're down to go. And I was like,
and this is you're not in jail yet.
Not yet. No,
Okay.
This is the rehab in between before I'm getting sentenced, you know? And again, I'm going through this you know, this court case, and we're talking maybe the span of about almost 3 years. So anyways, he says, we want to sponsor you. You want to go to a beauty school? I was like, oh man, I don't know about that. You know, like I'm gangster, you know, like what's that going to look like?
Right.
So anyways, I decided, you know, it's a path. It's happening to me. You know, I'm in this God thing. Like I'm trying to find myself, and the door's open. So why don't you make a decision? It could just be part of the path. And I said, yes. So from then, it's the first moment I said to myself, start practicing yes to something else. You know what I mean? And that's where I got familiar with that, you know, when it took me to another place.
Where did you pick that up though? Was that the start saying yes? Was that something you came up with or your hair mentor?
That was my own
really
narrative.
Wow.
Was because, again, think about the superhero thing.
Yeah.
James Bond. I always wanted to be James Bond. Mission Impossible. What would happen? He'd get the little message. Here's the mission. If you choose to, and then he's like, and blow up. So it was a choice. So I was always like, adventure.
That's insightful though.
And I mean, all my life, dude, since I was like little, I was always like, where's the mission? I had Cracker Jacks, fucking whatever it was. You know what I mean? I'd open up the little fortune cookie and shit looking for a message. And as I was like, okay, what is it? Drum roll. I'd always hear drum rolls. Yes, let's go. You know what I mean? Turned into a gang thing. I mean, believe me, the gang thing was like an adventure. Every single day trying to stay alive, trying to get drugs out on the street, like all kinds of crazy shit, you know? So there was a sense of that already being implemented. But then the drug thing was like, okay, you're growing up. How are you going to start making money? And that's where that came in. So when I caught my case, it was definitely a move up and out and going to, I actually, it was my way of getting off the street. I thought to myself, how am I going to make enough money to get away from the lifestyle of living on the street and actually possibly go to school, whatever? I need some money. You know what I mean? And that's why I took the actual mission.
It's almost like he came to you and was like, we have a mission for you. Should you choose
it was the same shit, right? See how that kind of played out?
Wow.
Yeah. And I said, yes. So I strapped half a kilo to my body and I jumped on a plane. And I was trying to go to Louisiana. And it's funny because, like, you know, I was so nervous that, you know, like right when I'm sitting there before the plane, you know, my time of like strapping up.
Would you like duct tape it to?
No. You remember the commercials when they used to saran wrap?
Yeah.
And then even a tiger can roll up and won't smell it. You know what I mean? It was like that. So I saw that shit and I was like, oh, I'm saran wrapping this shit out of this. Saran wrapped it, put it on me. And it's funny. I was like, okay, the mission, the adrenaline's going, you know, you're walking up to the gate.
Everybody's looking at you, all eyes.
That's what you think.
Yeah.
That's, again, the narrative. Here comes the narrative, you know, and that's part of the creative process too, you know? So walk up to the gate and you see these two guys roll up. You know, all I had was a duffel bag with shoes on it, and a leather jacket. It's fucking leather, right? So anyways, they roll up and they're like, sir, come with me, you know, and they take me and they're like, you know, we have word that you're carrying whatever and we'd like you to come with us. So start walking me back. And in those days, watch this, is some James Bond shit, right? So we have a string tied to us and it goes up like the watch into the shirt, goes into a little contraption. So if you get caught, you're walking, you pull the string and it releases the strap that you have on. So, right? So I'm walking with handcuffed and shit, right? And shaking my leg as I'm walking, shaking my leg as I'm walking. And all
So
the
you can't have tight pants on.
No, that's back in those days when we were gangbanging.
Sure.
Yeah. So drops outside of my leg, kick it into a bush. And I was like, phew, no evidence, right? We're walking. He stops and he's like, dude, you're so young. Like, what made you do this? This is what the detective or whoever he was. And he looks back and he sees all the dope on the ground. And he's like, damn, this close. But the funny thing is, again, caught the case, started going to church, the counselor becomes my youth counselor. I'm working in his salon while he's doing his Bible studies. He asked me, hey, we love you in the salon. We want to sponsor you. Go to school. We think you're a people person. You get along with everybody. And I say, yes. So this is the funny thing. 2.5 years. I say yes to this possibility. Again, it's another mission, right? And that's how I looked at everything brought to my attention. It's funny when I say yes, I'm going through this court case at the same time. So I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to do this at the same time I got to fight this case? This is another adventure, going into prison. So as I'm going to court, the last day when I was being sentenced, it was on a Thursday. Let's just keep it simple. Saturday, the previous Saturday, I'm in the salon and I'm talking to all the hairdressers, and there's this new woman in there, and she's a brand new hairdresser in this salon that I've been, hanging around. And I actually tell her, hey, I want to tell you my story. She's like, why are you here? Who are you? And I was like, let me tell you my story. So I tell her the same story I just told you. Got caught. I was gangbanging this, that, and or whatever. And she was like, oh my God, you have a case. Well, I know a lot of lawyers. Maybe I can help you out. I was like, sure. So she starts naming off all these people. What court are you in? All this other stuff. But at that time, 2.5 years, I've already passed all the hearings. I'm already in appeals because, I've been to the Supreme Court. I'm in appeals at this point. And at this point, they're going to sentence me. So I was like, I'm already getting sentenced, why do you need to know? Yeah. So I started naming people off. She's like, I don't know this person. Oh, I know this person. And then, oh, I don't know that judge. And who's your appeals judge? I was like, I can't even tell you, his name, whatever. She's like, well, I can't help you there. She's like, well, how about your DA, the district attorney that was prosecuting me, right? And I was like, his name is this. I was like, yeah, big brown, beard, comes in with his cowboy hat, and he just wants to slay me and make an example. She's like, is his name, I'm not going to say his name, but and I was like, yeah, that's him. She's like, oh my God, that's my husband. And I'm like blown away, right time. The timing was perfect. And she's like, this has been his baby, this case, because we're trying to
she knew the case.
Yeah, we're trying to fight the war on drugs.
Wow.
And, I've seen you around. I've been talking to a few people who you are. And it's like, I was like, please don't say anything to your husband, because anything I say, I just incriminated myself.
Sure.
And she says to me, I'm going to pray about this because I believe too. I go to church, and I don't know if I should tell him. You just told me everything he needs to know, put you away.
Fuck.
So we're talking Saturday, bro. So Sunday I go to church. I'm like, God, oh my God, what did I do? What did I say? Monday, I start school. I get into school, put my smock on, all my gear. They give me my kit, and I was like, dude, I started working out, talking and touching my doll head, seeing all the girls in the place. I was like, dude, I'm in heaven right now, dude. I was like, this is it, bro. Thursday comes around, and Thursday is when I was supposed to get sentenced, right? Get this. I loved the hair thing so much, I totally forgot I was being sentenced. So I show up to school. Back then we had to wear smocks. It's like a white shirt or whatever. It looked like a dress-up shirt or whatever. Had my name embroidered in it and shit. I was like, yeah, this is me, My mom calls me. She's like, where are you? You're supposed to be in court right now. It's like, oh shit, I totally forgot. You know, I jump in my car, do 90 to the courthouse, get in there, I button up my smock, put a tie on, a little jacket, you know, and again, I'm getting sentenced. So I'm about 5 minutes late. I walk into the courthouse and they're already saying, you know, cuff this guy, you know, he's late. Like, and my DA comes up and he's like, wait, I got some new information I want to submit. And he brings out all these testimonials of schools I talked at, you know, I spoke at, and you know, like all these different things that said I'm doing good these 2 years I've been out. And he was like, I want to withdraw my plea and submit something else. He said, you know, forget the 5 to 7. Here's 3 years probation. And I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
At that point, because check this out, right before I went into court, rushing, I said a little prayer. I said, God, you give me 2 paths. I can go into jail. I know I'm going to be able to hang. I know people like I can hold my own. I know I'm little and shit, but like I got this, you know. So I was willing to go. That was the whole key to that. Mm-hmm. Then the whole beauty school thing, I was like, but this beauty school thing is throwing me off. I'm down to be this too. You let me off, I'm gonna be the most amazing hairdresser I can possibly be.
Wow. Okay.
I'm gonna change the world. And literally, when I went into that court, he's like, I got new evidence, all the testimonials. He's like, 35 probation, you know. And I was like, oh my God. At that moment, there was this piece that came on me and said, I'm gonna be the best hairdresser on the planet, you know. And there was the start, you know.
You could have said anything. You could have said, I'll never do drugs again, or I'll never try to sell drugs again, or, you know, but no, you chose to, I'm going to be the best.
I'm going to be the best at wherever I end up, you know. What I mean?
Yeah. And in that moment, you were starting your hair path, and I'm going to be the best. That's crazy. I've never known that.
Yeah. So that was my story. So ever since then, kept a camera with me. I shot everything from the 12 months I was in school to when I got out, an assisting program, everything. I mastered every single level of the craft with a camera. And because I've had those pictures, I got into the entertainment industry. And, you know, like ever since then, like major people, Biggie, like Little Kim, like Mary J. Blige, like Halle Berry. I cut Halle Berry's hair off, you know, and it's like epic, America's Top Model. I was in the room when Tyra came up with the idea, you know. I used to do Tyra's hair. So Fashion Week, like all these different things. And it's like those were the adventures. These were these missions that I chose to take, you know.
Who was the very, very, very first?
Do you remember Tisha Campbell from Martin? Mm-hmm. She wanted a new hairdresser. She did a test shoot, and my agency came in. I had an agency back then. They decided to do a test photo shoot, and we put wigs on her, changed her out of the character of being on Martin, and it was so epic. Everybody fought for the pictures, the ownership of them, the photographer, the mom who was the agent, Tisha, and then my agency, because they all went thirds paying for the photo shoot. Anyways, you know, from then it was like those pictures took me to another level. Just opened doors for everybody who had short hair, you know, woman of color, anything that had to do with that. And this woman thought, I'm going to be your agent. I'm going to start representing you in this field. And that's how I got into it.
What makes the difference between, so you primarily focused on women?
Yes.
And so that would be...
actually, I was a barber first.
Well, okay, that was going to be my question. Yeah. What makes the difference between a barber and a hairstylist?
Well, because, you know, like men's haircuts are very, you know, we like them strong.
Okay.
And they don't last when they're that strong. We need, unless you're going, you know, natural, a little grubby, whatever, you know, like men like their shit polished. And so men come back every 2 weeks.
Well, makes sense.
And you can only do so many men every single day. So my thing was, I need something more. I want to innovate past this. How can I disrupt this routine of just doing men?
That was that creative itch that you just weren't feeling.
So I was like, let me take it an inch, not even leaps and bounds, an inch longer. And I went into women's short hair.
Got it.
That's how I got into the women.
And you said you cut off, whose hair did you cut off?
Halle Berry.
So it was long.
It wasn't long. It just wasn't right.
Okay, I've always been curious. How do you convince, especially a high-profile person, because hair is really touchy because it's on our head. It's the first thing people see, right? And it establishes who you are, and kind of establishes your personality and all that. So especially when you're dealing with a high-profile person, a celebrity or something, how do you convince them that it's like, okay, we need to go in a completely different direction. We're going to cut this middle length or long hair and we're going to go short. Like, trust me. How do you garner the trust?
It's looking them straight in the eye. It's saying, you know what, I actually see something that you're trusting me to do. So it's a collaboration, we're talking about creating here, you know what I mean? And
so they're already wanting maybe a change.
They're wanting something, and maybe they did something to attempt that and it was wrong. Wrong color, wrong shape, didn't fit them, like whatever it was. It wasn't what they thought when they looked into the mirror. So again, you can't create unless you have the client. You can't create unless you have a platform to do that. And in that moment, I was like, I got it. I'm gonna do this sick, shorter haircut because I want your face to be the picture. And all I'm doing is the frame now. So, but I want the frame to be loud, but not competing with you. You see what I mean? So I saw that. So I actually thought to myself, everybody wants to do that. Like we were at the Kendrick Lamar concert and we see one of your belts on him. Amazing. I was like, I couldn't even focus on him anymore. I was trying to get a picture of him wearing the belt, right? And I'm like so proud I'm sitting by the creator.
That's funny.
It's pretty epic how I appreciate that,
Sure.
And so same thing, like I'm sitting there and I want to be in the picture when Halle shoots because that's her thing. But I don't want to be competing with her. I want to compete. I don't want to compete. I want to just be a part of. So how can I push her face so it's her face that everybody sees? So I framed her hair shorter, spiky, but just away from her face. And it was like her signature look. You find your place, dude.
I've always kind of thought in that way when I would do something special, like a guitar strap or something for somebody, and then I would have the opportunity to go photograph them. It wasn't about, let me get the picture of the monkey on the strap it was just about the vibe.
It was definitely.
So it could have been I'd get a side shot when I was photographing, of them rocking the strap, and it's like, it's still my strap, but I don't need the monkey. I just need to be part of it. I need to be part of the experience, part of the vibe to help create that thing. And that feels very similar what you're saying. How do you know in that moment, how do you trust, I guess, in that moment that you're making the right decision? Because that's a big,
hell yeah.
That's a big one. Yeah. And you got to have a lot of confidence in yourself to go, fucking, I got this.
Yeah.
How do you?
Well, again, like one of the biggest distractions of anything you contribute, your belt, a song, whatever, is the narratives. You have an applause, which is what we actually want from the audience. We have the person sitting in the chair who's actually the actual guitar strap, so to speak, in your case. You know what I mean? And it's the narratives. So you have all these influences. Another example would be like if we were fighting in the cage, you have your coach screaming and you have the audience yelling. Some people cheering for you, some people cheering against you. But the coach yelling, you have to distinguish what voice is screaming you up opposed to screaming at you or for you. You get what I'm saying? And that's what it was. It was like, I was so present in what I was doing because it's one-on-one, dude. It's just like how we're doing right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm sitting in front of a mirror. What I do, it's my expertise, and I'm fitting her with this frame or this outfit. We always say hair is the outfit you never take off.
Yeah, but if you put a red shirt on
Yeah.
or skirt or whatever, and she doesn't like it, you take it off and change it.
Yeah.
Hair-
So, but think about it. We just did a belt for one of my clients, you know, and it was a collaboration.
Yeah.
So the collaboration was, here's some things that this person loves. We give you, we feed and we feed and seed you. And then you take your experience of whatever you've had from the experience of people rocking their guitars, buying more, whatever that is. And it inspires you inside to say, okay, I'm going to put these things together. I know what works. I don't know this person, never even seen him, never even met him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, just doing some research, and there's a vibe. You feel it. And that's, again, the creative process is reaching deep down in your experience and actually pulling out things out of that little universe of yours and saying, this is going to be perfect for this person. Whether you cross your fingers or, you know, like hope and pray, you know,
Sure.
like I used to do that shit when I was younger, you know, didn't know how to do color. And I was like, you know, one of my clients came in, I want hair color, right? And I was thinking to myself, okay, well, this is about to be not hair color, it's going to be prayer color. Because I'm going to go in the bag and I'm going to mix a bunch of shit up and I'm going to put it on her, go back into the bag, and I'm going to get on my knees. I hope this works 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know what to do. And in that creative process, I was actually trial and erroring what works, what doesn't work. You know, and the biggest part of that learning curve was the mistakes. So
Yeah.
you refine, you throw away the belt, you know, the client comes out looking orange, whatever.
Have you had any major mistakes?
Major mistakes.
And then
So many times, bro, you don't even understand. Cutting off hair that they wanted longer sideburns, you know, and I was like, oh my God, you're about to go on camera, and I trimmed them too short. You know what I mean?
what do you do? Do you play it off?
They lose their shit. Well, I'll tell you what I told, I was teaching at a school recently, and I was telling them, you have to make these mistakes, right? And in school, we used to do what they call pocket curls. We'd get a client. We had to learn how to use these irons called Marcells. And, you know, there's an oven, and then you put the iron in there and you heat it up. It's like old school, right? So sometimes you heat up the iron too hot. You're supposed to touch the hair first, see, you know, like how it reacts to it. And then if it's cool enough, then you do the curl. But sometimes it was so hot because you forgot it was in there. You touch the curl and it'd fall right off, right? So in beauty school, we used to call those pocket curls. You know, I do a curl, I try to do a curl, fell off, and you put it in your pocket.
Put that shit in your pocket and don't say a word.
But, you know, it was those moments that actually refine the craft.
Sure, but
Because you'll never do it again. You know what I mean?
yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
You know, and the problem is you're in a mirror.
Yeah.
Somebody's looking at you in the mirror. I mean, how do you like, do you just kind of tuck yourself behind them and like stash
Well, I
that
mean,
shit?
you hope, or you turn them away from the mirror.
And then you,
Well, that was always my thing, you know, like turning a client away from the mirror, because there's so many people that are just in your shit. Like,
Yeah.
wait, not too much, and wait. I mean, Rosie's like that when she comes to work,
oh yeah,
comes to the salon.
I bet.
And it's like, it's almost like, okay, you almost got to turn them away so they can get distracted, get on their phone, or like, okay, world, this is what I'm doing, you know, taking the selfie.
It's almost like a battle of attrition.
Right.
And,
And then you do your thing.
yeah.
Right. And then they turn around. They're like, oh my God, amazing. I was like, see, bitch, it's like 5 inches that you need to cut off. You know what I mean? So it's like a in the craft of actually creating, you keep being creative on how to be able to execute that.
What do you do, like, if you don't have somebody, let's say like that you're collaborating with, and they come in with a photograph and they want that hair And you're like, yeah, but your hair's not like that. You don't have that same texture. You don't have that same length. You don't have the same, I can't necessarily do that. And they're like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I want that hair. And you're like, if you don't have a collaborator, have you ever turned anybody away?
Oh, for sure, dude.
Where you're just like,
I fired some of the greatest. You wouldn't believe who I fired. Like, we're talking epic, like icons.
Where you're just like, I can't help you.
Well, no, I mean, when you're dealing with that level of someone, because again, you build this craft and you cherish the one person who's sitting in your chair. Well, anyways, the thing that makes your craft more amazing as a craftsman is eventually who's sitting in your chair becomes the one everybody sees. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And when that person is actually sitting on a chair, then you start seeing your straps on stage or my hair on covers, walking down the runway in Italy, like whatever it is, you know what I mean? On TV shows. Or you even get awards. Like 2023, I just got an Emmy for a TV show.
Wow, congratulations.
And the funny thing is my client she was literally bald. But it was the process of that year of going shorter, and then eventually bald. I think it was the process I got the award for, not actually the moment that she was wearing what she was wearing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. What would be your biggest accolade that you think, like, what was that aha moment where you're like, wow, fuck? Like
that I made it?
Yeah, not even just that you made, maybe, yeah, that would be one, but like where you're like that's the pinnacle moment where I'm like, I'll never, was it the Emmy where you're like?
No, hell no.
No? Like what would be the moment where you were like, yeah, I made it. Like, holy shit.
It's not about, I mean, the awards are nice.
Sure.
Like I have a couple other awards. It's like the Emmys for hairdressers, and the first one I ever won, it was epic, and it's funny because we actually just wanted to see where our culture of doing hair fit in the world of what everybody thought was amazing. Right. And I was behind the scenes doing a lot of photo work, and I entered a category called editorial select. So in this editorial select, it's all over the US and Canada. All of these hairdressers submit pictures that were published. Mm-hmm. And, again, photo shoots, magazine covers, that was my daily grind, like capturing, because I wanted to capture my hair and make it historical. That was my idea behind getting into editorial work. So the first NAHA that I won, it was North American Hairdresser Award. It was funny because, I heard about them, and the salon wanted to get on the map so we can get more hairdressers to apply to our culture. And, we shot her, and I just said, I wonder what it looks like. Let's just submit, We submitted, and it was just a model we got that came to get her hair done. We actually threw a wig on her and tried a couple different things. And it was so epic, the pictures, we just submitted them, We submitted them to a couple magazines that got published. Then we submitted to the NAHAs. And it was like, and the winner is North American Hairdresser Award goes to, and then they call my name, and I'm like, West Side. Like, it was the first one, what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, it was exciting, but it's funny because I looked at it like they're just awarding me for my due diligence that I'm doing every day.
Yeah.
Because that's what it was. We were just shooting her.
Sure.
We just submitted it, you know what I mean? And I think that was the same feeling I had when I got the Emmy. It's like, I didn't want to do the show. That she was just my client, and they were doing a show. Mm-hmm. So she's like, well, might as well come back, watch the show, and then the show can pay you for however many times I need to get my hair done. Yeah. I mean, it was just incorporated into our world, and making it work. So I was like, sure, I'd cut her hair like earlier in the week. I'd come back for the show, like didn't really have to do that much to it, but then the show topics were so epic. It's kind of like the podcast, and I'm just sitting there like mesmerized. So I started getting into it. Who's the next?
Yeah.
Dr. Ramini, it was this, it was that, it was whoever, narcissism, it was that, and I was doing hair according to what was appropriate for what the show was.
What was the show?
I mean, I'm saying like family stuff, whatever the show was doing.
No. I'm saying what was the show?
The Red Table Talk.
Red Table Talks. And your client was?
Jada Pinkett and her family.
Because people are going to be like, well,
yeah.
Who?
So every time we would have a show, I would adjust the hair, and it was more conservative. It was loud. It was fun. We did one show on people going bald, shaved their head off. You know what I mean? It was epic because I was able to do according to the times of what was current.
Sure. What if somebody wanted to come get their hair cut, get their hair styled, get their hair done by Neeko?
Yeah.
Where do they go? How do people get in touch with you?
We have a studio in Beverly Hills.
What's it called?
It's called the Lab Lounge. Lab-Lounge. The lab, because that's where we work, And then lounge where clients meet the creatives. So that's how we came up with the name.
And if anybody wanted to see, are you on Instagram or anything?
Yeah. Instagram is Neeko, Neeko backstage _.
Neeko_.
No, Neeko backstage _.
Neeko backstage _ Circling back to like creative process, like and yours, how do you find or how do you tap into yours? And or I would say it's probably imperative that you catch a flow. Like if you're doing someone's hair, because if you're not interested or you're not liking their head shape or you're not liking, there's going to be a point where you're like, it's just going to be a slog. And I can imagine that it's probably going to come out okay. Yeah. It's going to, because you're doing it, it's going to, but how do you tap into that?
Well, I saw it when Eddie was here and he's leaving. You're trying to find him a belt. Some fit, some didn't. He didn't like the color. It's the same process, like bringing it to the finale. You almost got to trust the process first, trust the creator, and you got to find the fit. So what we do is, because of all my experiences, backstage, runway, in the salon, on location, wherever I was, TV shows, whatever it was, it's a thing of like somebody sits in your chair and the face disappears, but the shapes start coming into play. And I start pulling from past experiences. The amazing thing is, because I got to work with Halle Berry for 30 years. She had the perfect face. So anything worked on her. So it was kind of like, we were talking about that with earlier about the golden ratio of things.
Okay. What is that?
The golden ratio is, the man in the star. He's in the circle. It's supposed to be the perfect dimensions.
Okay.
Or whatever, dynamics, whatever, And I always thought to myself, what's the golden ratio for this face shape?
Oh.
Then it went from this face shape to this lifestyle, then this profession. You know what I mean? And so if you had an oval face, everybody's trying to get this oval face. I mean, everybody's doing plastic surgery, all this shit that's going on in the world right now. Losing weight, they're trying to go back down to this, because the oval shape is the perfect thing to do anything. You can put the hair back, have no hair, have big hair, whatever. You know what I mean? So we're always like face framing and creating around this perfect dynamic. Again, we call it the golden ratio. You know what I mean? If we can get you close to that, from, again, me being backstage, working with musicians, people who don't look that amazing and need a new Superman cape, whatever it may be, we actually pull all those experiences, sit the person in the chair, erase the face, taking consideration the lifestyle. And then the biggest part of it is, because we got to the point where it was their audience we were actually doing hair for.
Ah, okay.
So again, real quick, I had a client come in and she's older, owned a bunch of buildings, and her business partner was a younger guy. And it's funny because I'd cut her hair and I knew it was perfect for her, but I didn't know her lifestyle. But then when she brought her business partner in, when I did her hair, she looked over at him and said, "What do you think?" And at that moment, I was like, this is a lesson I need to learn. I need to do this for their audience because they're going to give them the feedback that's going to praise them, raise them, and then they're going to go out feeling that. So my creative process has always been record label, celebrity, like person of interest, who's their audience wants to see or listening to or whatever the music is. You know, I'm going to do hair that they're going to be fully comfortable in. You know, I wanted to do the podcast something that I felt comfortable in. I didn't want to dress up. I didn't want to look stupid. You know what I mean? Feel stupid. I wanted to be myself. So if I can do that outfit on the person on stage that's performing, and then they feel comfortable and fully themselves so they can actually fully perform, then the audience responds to that. That's my creative process.
I love it.
Yeah.
That makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
I've always told people, I'm like, trust me, you're going to get a guitar strap. You're going to play better.
Yeah, for sure.
You're going to play better, which is going to, that resonates.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I love that.
That's the process.
Man. Well, thanks again.
For sure.
I have so many more questions. I don't want to be, cognizant of your time.
Rosie's birthday.
And what's that?
Rosie's birthday, we can finish them.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, Neeko, thank you. Hey, this is Tori. Thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts, and we will catch you on the next one.